Hello everybody, I'm Tuvshee Tumur and my presentation is called Human Consciousness, Intelligence and Cognition as related to society, history and culture merit more attention and research. Thank you to the organizers of the symposium before all. So, to introduce a part of my research work here, it concerns the human consciousness and its relationship with human intelligence and cognition. And the argument here is that we have to account for the ways these mental phenomena are associated with human behavior, practices and actions, both at individual and collective level. In this way, the social and historical aspects of human consciousness and cognitive development will be taken into consideration. In other words, as I try to do so, we must pay more attention to the kinds of individual society relations in different societies or communities and the ways these are reflected in their cultural patterns and political practices in their relation to the phenomena concerned. Thus, my work is also concerned with the notions of information and experience in philosophical, anthropological, sociological, and linguistic psychological terms. So, as the talk must be short, I focus here on some questions of general importance for knowledge development. Firstly, a meta-scientific observation and reflection. In other words, it concerns making science about science, a reflection about how we are doing or trying to do science, and whether our methods and approaches are adequate enough for producing knowledge in question. The observation is that the current research in several fields, which concerns us here, tend to privilege experimentation in laboratory, but such a method and experiments in laboratory are not sufficient for studying the mental phenomena, especially when it's the question of studying human consciousness. So, the argument here is that we can do experiments, but it's not sufficient because humans are social and historical beings. Hence, the need to pay more attention to and more research in the fields of study which take into account the facts about society, culture, and history, considering both individual and collective aspects. Therefore, consciousness studies must cover at least the following disciplines: philosophy, anthropology, sociology, history, psychology, and linguistics, besides and apart from neuroscience and related fields. The reason why we should pay more attention to these disciplines is that the phenomena such as consciousness, intelligence, and cognition have to do with the relationship of individuals with their environment and with the world in general and the social world in particular, in addition to their relation to oneself. So, the phenomena in question are related to human experience, culture, and history at individual and collective level, which are themselves interdependent. This is why the methodological and policy-related issues are important. And as we talk about intelligence consciousness here, we need to account also for the difference between human intelligence and consciousness and what we call artificial intelligence. It's the sense of intelligence and consciousness and our sense with regard to them that make difference with regard to so-called artificial intelligence. So, It's the question of authenticity and artificiality. Therefore, the implication is that human intelligence and consciousness are not realizable for any technologies because those mental phenomena involve human mind, therefore, human feeling, thinking, reflection, reasoning, understanding, and so on. So, the concluding remarks here is about some issues of public policy concerning sciences and knowledge development in general, and the development of knowledge of consciousness in particular. Progress in knowledge of consciousness will depend on the disciplines of social and human sciences contributing to cognitive science. Apart from artificial intelligence and neuroscience, of which researchers recognize that they try to study the neural correlates of mental phenomena, but not the phenomena themselves. Hence, the need to develop more of social and human sciences, as mentioned before. And the development of those disciplines depends, among other things, on the public policies concerning knowledge production in society. So, the current tendency giving privilege to neuroscience and artificial intelligence erroneously underestimates the social and human sciences. Indeed, logically, it's consciousness studies that's more important and should partly involve the brain studies, but not the contrary. Because the brain studies makes only one part of the consciousness studies, which matters more for knowledge, thus for humans and human societies in general. And the naive presentation that overestimates the narrower and technical fields seems to have been the consequence of, among other things, inadequate specifications of relevant public policies sometimes, such as the fact that the US declared the decade of 1990 to 2000 as the decade of the brain, and its spread and continuation so far. But if there were more reflection or deliberation, it should have been declared as the decade of consciousness studies, not just the decade of the brain. So this presentation can give an idea about declaring a decade of consciousness studies, and that might be a suggestion for policymakers, among others. Thank you.